right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to all of our independent wellness guides here on the call. And I know a lot of you are also still logged in online, so you do have the ability to see the chat box over there. I'm really excited about tonight's call, and I am thrilled to get to introduce get to introduce you to a very special woman who has really been an awesome role in me developing some of the parts that I would like to create inside of my own brand and business. Let me check and see. Lani, are you on the call?
I'm here.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. Well, again, like I said, I have a lot of respect for Lani and all that she has done and created. She started her business years ago, and it started out just as photography. She's very talented. She has really rebranded that entire portion of her business and really works on now working with female entrepreneurs. Most specifically, I know we might have some men on the call. You won't be excluded as well tonight, so don't feel that way. But her focus really is how to help women brand ourselves and rediscover ourselves and to create, I love her tagline, which is to create a life that you don't need a vacation from. And I know all of us feel that that's exactly what we are attempting to do, especially through our Radiantly You opportunity, is to create a different life for ourselves than we'd be able to have in the typical 9 to 5. We are all here as entrepreneurs at heart. So she's going to talk about not only creating an awesome life that you don't need a vacation from, but also how to take a step from the comfort zone where we all tend to want to jive and hang out most of the time, and really stepping outside of that comfort zone into the courage zone and all of the opportunity that is available to you once you step out. So I'd love to turn the call over to Lani, and we are recording this call tonight, so don't worry, you'll have access to this training later on to share with your teams. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. This is a real pleasure for me to share some of this information with your independent wellness guides. And so we're just going to go right to it. And the idea of the training tonight is comfort zones and success, and how those two things sometimes are together and how most of the time they're not, that your comfort zone and your goals for success aren't always aligning the way that you want them to be. So we want to talk about different zones tonight. And the comfort zone is the main zone that we're going to talk about. There's also a courage zone. And then beyond that is not to scare you right off the bat, but there's the terror zone where some overwhelm happens, right? And the sweet spot right between those zones where the courage zone occurs. And I like to think or visualize of these different zones as kind of bubbles around us that we've created in our lives, and they each contain people and activities, places, different things that we do throughout our day and our lives, and they overlap a little bit. And we're going to talk tonight about what each zone is, how they have both a positive impact and a negative impact on your life overall, but also how to tell when it's time to grow your comfort zone and or step from your comfort zone into your courage zone. So in the 5 years that I've focused my photography on women's portraiture and women entrepreneurs, I've learned a lot about discomfort, because if there's one place that the majority of women and a significant number of men are uncomfortable, it's in front of the camera, in front of the lens. So with the hundreds of women that I've photographed, it's given me a really unique ability to observe the benefit of being uncomfortable. When it comes to my posing technique and how I have women pose their bodies, the different positions that I put them in, it really takes that level of uncomfortable that you have just being in front of the camera in general and wondering how you're going to look and whether you're wearing enough makeup and all those thoughts that go in your head. And then I ask you to do some of these kind of odd or twisty or uncomfortable positions, and it's an interesting interplay for the client where they leave the session thinking, I don't think any of that worked. I'm not sure if I'm the only person she's ever photographed that's not going to look good with what she tried to do. And then when we review the images together, it's really a rewarding connection for me and for the client between how uncomfortable they might have been in the pose and the actual result that they got, even when they were uncomfortable. So when it comes to taking that knowledge and learning more about comfort zones, I've been able to take all of the different experiences that these women have had and morph it into helping them find ways to increase their ability to navigate discomfort, not just in front of the camera, but also in their lives as a whole. And that's what we're going to kind of dive into more in depth tonight. Because as you grow, you develop multiple comfort zones. You have different factors that contribute to the way your comfort zone develops. Things like parents and their opinion of what you're good at and what you're not good at. Your teachers, the grades that you got in school and the areas in which you excelled and the areas in which you struggled. Siblings, there tends to be, some characteristics that happen between the smart kid, the sporty kid, and where you fall in that kind of dynamic of your own family. And then friends, too. The circle of people that you associate with most often have a contributing factor to where you feel comfortable and confident. So the things you end up being good at naturally and the things that you're willing to invest in practice of contribute to the things that make up your comfort zone. And your comfort zone is obviously that place where you feel a sense of emotional security and confidence, where things tend to start to click, you feel stable. Some positive things about being in this comfort zone are that you can wake up every day and you feel pretty good. You feel confident, you know what's on your plate, you know you can handle it. There's a sense of safety. There can be some creative aspects, some flexibility in your comfort zone as well. But the underlying feature of your comfort zone is that you feel really secure and confident, okay? It's a little bubble that all of us create around feeling contentment, okay? So it's a great thing to build a comfort zone, especially when you're building a foundation. We build a comfort zone, we grow it, we expand it, we change it, we shift it at all different points in our lives. So my comfort zone and the things that I'm comfortable doing, like giving this talk or developing my business, growing it in new ways, going out and getting new clients, all of those things are within my comfort zone, but may not quite be where you are. And that's, again, all of the different things that go into that are tools and practices, associations, families, friends, and the things that you do every day. So each time you face a new challenge or each time you try something new, your comfort zone has the potential to change. Another time when your comfort zone can morph and develop is around transitions. So that happens pretty naturally. When you go to college, your comfort zone is going to change. When you buy your first home, totally different comfort zone. The comfort zone that a college student has versus the comfort zone that a parent has are two completely different kind of worlds that they're operating in on a regular basis. Now, one of the things that I hope that you begin to do after this training is to start thinking about where your comfort zone is benefiting your life and where your comfort zone is starting to restrict your life. And begin to bring awareness to that and start making changes to your comfort zone with deliberation and intention, so that when you attempt to make a positive change, it has an opportunity to kind of settle in and grow the edges of your comfort zone. So what happens then when you want to make changes? When it's time to grow and do things like eating a healthier diet, finding a new job, making more money, and even with Radiantly You, the effort that all of you are putting into reducing chemicals and improving the overall health of your home environment, all those things require that we spend a little more time outside of our comfort zone, outside of those places where we feel confident and contentment. And they require that we spend a little more time in the area that I like to call the courage zone. So first, let's talk a little bit, though, about what it starts to feel like in your comfort zone when it goes from being secure and safe and creative to being more restrictive. The signs that you're going to find most often when your comfort zone stops being ideal for you and your phase in life are things like having anxiety, coming up with a variety of different excuses of why you can't make changes or why things aren't going your way. You're finding that there's not a lot of progress that you're able to make toward these goals that you set for yourself. You find that there's a lot more opportunity for you to be critical of yourself, and you're struggling then with a level of perfectionism as well, that the expectations you're placing on yourself and your ability to meet those expectations are not aligning in a way that your comfort zone is serving you anymore. So when you're trying to make these positive changes, and that requires that you do new things, staying in your comfort zone can really limit your ability to recognize any opportunities that might be coming your way. It's kind of like a filter through which you're viewing the world that creates fogginess about anything that might make you feel uncomfortable. So when it's time to step from your comfort zone where things are starting to feel a little stagnant and you're having a little bit of a kind of Groundhog Day movie experience where it's the same thing, different day, it's starting to feel to you like you want to shake things up. So one of the times when this may have happened for you is when you signed on with Radiantly You and you were looking to make this positive change in your life. You had to step out of your comfort zone and into a space where things didn't feel quite as comfortable or confident. And a lot of characteristics that happen in your day when you've stepped out of your comfort zone and into this new zone are things like you start learning new things. That means that your growth is exponential. You start making connections between lessons that you've learned either in personal growth or new information from a system like Radiantly You, and it starts to connect you to the different places in your life where change needs to occur. And you're able to see things as opportunities rather than challenges. You're able to grow your confidence in new ways, in things that your comfort zone says you're not going to be comfortable in. You're able to experiment with becoming confident in new ways. And there's a level of bravery that's also involved in some of the everyday tasks that you attempt when you are operating in this zone of courage. You know, those two things go together, bravery and courage. So when you kind of find the guts and the ability to step into this courage zone where you're learning every day and you're growing and opportunities are coming your way, a lot of positive things can happen. But it is smart to bring some awareness to the potentially negative things about this courage zone, because if you are aware of them, they're less likely to trip you up and send you retreating back into your comfort zone. And that can happen for a lot of different reasons. But the main difference between the comfort zone and the courage zone is that there's a lot more risk to the activities that you're doing in your courage zone. There's more chance of failure. There can be a potential there for loss. And those are the types of things that create setbacks and a desire to retreat from our courage zone back into that little bubble of contentment where we feel super confident. This isn't always a conscious choice that we make, but it's the things like risk and failure and loss that create a reaction in our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind starts giving our conscious mind reasons for us to leave our courage zone and go back where it's nice and safe and retreat back into that comfort zone. One of the biggest values of personal growth is that it allows you to experiment with tools to manage this subconscious response. Be aware of it. Look for triggers that are signaling you that you might be trying to self-sabotage, trying to create challenges that you really have the opportunity to overcome if you're able to visualize them and not just kind of working on autopilot. So there's a lot of science behind that too, around what areas of your brain are activated when you're confronted with things like risk, loss, and failure. But there's also this great book that I want to recommend if you guys have not read it. It's called The Big Leap, and it's by Gay Hendricks. There's actually 2 self-help books out there called The Big Leap, so make sure that you look for the one by Gay Hendricks. It's a great book that discusses the complexity of our ability to self-sabotage, right? And all of the different ways that when we try to make these positive changes and our life is going really well, the way we can kind of crash and burn when things start really flowing for us. So the book gives you a lot of great ways to expand your comfort zone that are a little bit too complex to deliver in the 30 minutes that I have here with you guys tonight. So that's one recommendation of a way to kind of go deeper into the idea of a comfort zone and a courage zone. So that's going to give you some tools to manage your reactions to the potential negativity in this zone. And it's also going to give you the flip side of that negativity is this huge opportunity for personal growth. So one of the best ways that I have my clients move from their comfort zone into their courage zone is to focus on just one area in which they want to experiment with being brave. For you guys, that's probably going to be your Radiantly You business, doing things like making sure that you're reaching out to potential hostesses. Small steps every day like developing your knowledge of Radiantly products, sharing that knowledge in a blog post, and creating a social media presence around the benefits of using the products. All of those are small kinds of steps that bring you at least to the very edge of your comfort zone, if not all the way into your courage zone. And those are the small steps that allow you to test your resolve, build trust in yourself, and create lasting changes, okay? Taking these small steps are somewhat vital in exercising that courage muscle that you need to make some of these positive changes. So there's a variety of ways in which you can find small ways to expand your capacity to be brave. And there are definitely tools around managing the potential for failure, risk, and loss that come with the ability to be brave. And doing a small step every day that scares you allows you to expand your ability to be comfortable with discomfort too. Making one call a day, writing one blog post, expanding your social media presence by adding in a Facebook post or experimenting with Twitter, something that gets you beyond the things that you do habitually or naturally into the things that involve a little bit of risk for you. The stretch that happens there can have a rebound effect, but the more you stretch that muscle, the larger it's going to grow. And it's going to give you the trust in yourself, the comfort with the potential for failure, for taking risks, and those are essential elements for living within your courage zone. Of course, there's another book that I can recommend that is called Do One Thing Every Day That Scares You. So if you feel like the things that I've suggested to you are already within your comfort zone, it might be worth looking at this book. It's by, it looks like Robbie, R-O-B-I-E, and the last name is Rogue, R-O-G-G-E. It might be worth taking a look at this book and flipping through it and looking for a few things that you can add to this courage zone to kind of experiment with where you feel you need to work on being brave. So another advantage of these small steps is that it's going to help you avoid the furthest ring out, the furthest bubble that's kind of the terror zone, okay? This is the point that you reach where you find yourself in paralysis and overwhelm, okay? We've all been there. We've all stacked too much on our plate, too many attempts at change, and freaked out and not been able to make any decision, not been able to view the plate as full of possibilities, and we start seeing them all as challenges. So if you find yourself there are positive things that can be learned even in the terror zone. They can be harder to access, but the goal of paralysis and overwhelm isn't necessarily for you to convince yourself that you're not capable of achieving something, just that you need a new set of tools to navigate, okay? You're going to begin to bring awareness to the points where you've crossed from the courage zone into the terror zone, and that can give you a sense of the edges of your courage zone, so that the next time you're spending most of your time there, you can be much more aware of how much is too much. And that is going to give you that ebb and flow, that natural balance that needs to happen for you in that courage zone. Even with that, it can freak you out to get to that place of paralysis and overwhelm though. So if you find yourself there, it is totally a reasonable thing to retreat back into the security of your comfort zone for a short time. But you don't want to get stuck there again. You don't want to spend more time there than you need to, because you want to pay attention to the signs when it's time to step back out again. And those signs are feeling like your life is on rinse and repeat, when you're not feeling challenged, when you're not making progress on your goals. Then it's time to then step back into your courage zone and do some of those things that scare you. So the more often you experiment with this back and forth nature of these three different zones, the more awareness you'll have about where that ideal balance happens for you and what it takes to maintain a manageable amount of time in your courage zone. And that might be an hour a day. You might start with 5 minutes a day, and you may spend the bulk of your time in your comfort zone. But as you experiment, you're going to be able to grow your capacity to spend more of your time in your courage zone. Because that's where the good stuff happens. That's where the place that things begin to flow, they come your way, you begin to be seen as someone who is accomplishing their goals, reaching new levels of success, and growing. So those things don't happen with some of the negative aspects of the courage zone, risk, failure, and loss. But those are the things that you also have. Those are the places and the things in which you have the greatest potential for success. And one of my favorite Albert Einstein quotes is that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. And then also another favorite quote that is, success is just on the other side of your comfort zone. So for me, that means that it means spending more time in your courage zone. And that's all I have for you tonight. That's my 30 minutes. And I'm wrapping it up. I have 1 more minute.
No, it was perfect. And I just want to say how much I really resonated and believe strongly in that ebb and flow that you spoke about, because I've found that over the course of the last 2 years, especially building Radiantly You and stepping outside of the comfort zone for myself, that the courage zone ends up becoming my comfort zone once I've done it enough. Mm-hmm. So you really have to continue to challenge yourself, and that ebb and flow is good, because as soon as the courage zone started to feel comfortable for me, I knew it was time to take it up even another level. So I love that.
Exactly.
Like, currently and constantly and consistently checking in with yourself really allows for that to happen. Do you mind really quick, just before we get off the call, just saying the titles of those 2 books? Again, I wrote them down.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure I got them right. Do you mind just saying those 2 that you had recommended, Big League, and then the first one?
So I'm going to clear my throat. All right. So it's The Big Leap, L-E-A-P, okay?
Oh, okay, L-E-A-P, okay.
Yes. Okay, so that's leaping, right? So that's by Gay Hendricks, Hendricks.
Okay.
And then the other book is Do One Thing Every Day That Scares You. And that's by Robbie, R-O-B-I-E, R-O-G-G-E is his last name.
Okay, that sounds like a really good one. Do one thing every day that scares you. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and it's this tiny little book. You can throw it in your purse, and, you know, if you have a minute, you can flip through and choose one thing and go do it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so perfect, so perfect. Thank you so much for this call and for all of that. It was amazing.
That was a total pleasure for me, Melissa. Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we can't wait to have you back again, and I'll definitely share with you all of the feedback from our independent wellness guides and their team members once the call gets shared. And we will have the link up on our YouTube channel for all of our subscribers here by the end of the week. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you again, Lani, for all of your just amazing wisdom and insight. And everyone have a fabulous evening. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.